Housing is a massive challenge and even a crisis, but it's a crisis that Canada has solved before, and it's one that we are going to solve again by working together.
What this is a photo op fund. It allows Justin Trudeau to show up in places where housing was already being built with a check to do a photo op.
A back and forth there between the opposition and the federal government, the Prime Minister, in fact, and the leader of the Tory party, Pierre Poilievre, about the most recent announcements as far as housing policy goes from the federal government. The Liberals made those announcements on the sidelines of their caucus retreat in London, Ontario. The first, a part of the Housing Accelerator Fund for that city. Yesterday, $74 million. Today, they made a bigger announcement, one that was first promised back in 2015 to remove the GST from construction of new purpose-built rental apartment buildings. New data shows how much of a crisis all the parties really are trying to address. Canada's housing agency, just to put some numbers on it, says nearly 3.5 million new housing units, over and above what's already planned, are needed to be constructed by 2030 in order to restore affordability to 2004 levels. The CMHC's Deputy Chief Economist, Iorwerth, crunched all the numbers for the agency's latest report, and he's with me now live. Hi, Mr. Iorwerth. Good to have you here.
Good to be with you, Vassy.
I appreciate you making the time. I think this is so interesting because it quantifies exactly what we're talking about politically so frequently. You look at something called the supply gap. What is that in layman's terms?
Well, yeah, in layman's terms, that's going to be a challenge. Basically, we're trying to look at what demand will be at an affordable price in 2030, and then we're comparing that demand to what supply we think will be in 2030, and the gap is the difference between those numbers, so between what demand will be and what supply will be.
And it's a huge gap that you've identified.
It's huge.
You did this report in June of last year, and it's only just a tiny bit has been shaved off. Essentially, 3.5 million homes are still needed above and beyond what's already planned. Is that accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate, yes.
And can you characterize for us how the scale of that? How big is that?
Well, maybe another way of putting it is that if we look at current housing starts, which is around 250,000 a year, we need to at least double it. So it's an enormous challenge. It's taking housing construction growth back to levels we haven't seen since the 1970s. It's a huge challenge.
When is the last time you saw, or this country saw, a housing crisis of this scale? Has it ever?
Maybe the late 1980s, maybe. But yeah, no, I think we're getting into serious territory, or particularly because of the level of household debt that we're now incurring. I don't think in the late 1980s the level of debt was this bad. Now household debt is more than the size of our economy, so this is just a huge vulnerability that we have here, and I think it's quite unprecedented.
And how long would you say you could have seen it coming? And by that I mean, has this kind of been a crisis brewing for a while, or is it just interest rates that all of a sudden made it this bad? Oh
no, it's been, I would say, at least a decade. Now, we hadn't done all the analysis a decade ago, but we certainly produced a report in 2018 that outlined all of the problems that we're currently facing. So it's been a long time in the making, unfortunately, a long time to solve it as well.
Well, that's kind of my follow-up question. The scale of what you say is necessary in order to restore our affordability by 2030. I mean, 6 years, another 3.5 million homes, doubling basically the pace at which things are happening right now. Do you think, based on the current suite of policies that are in place, or maybe not, that that's possible?
Short answer, no. I think it's going to require a lot more policies by all of government, all levels of government, but also the private sector. There's not a lot of innovation, technology change, new processes, new materials in construction. So the private sector is going to have to change a lot of things as well. It's for government, private sector. We need everybody working on this.
The policies that have been announced most recently today, the removal of GST, for example, for rental properties. We know rents are through the roof as well right now, over $2,000 on average, according to rentals.ca for the month of August, increasing between May and August about $103 a month. Yeah. Does a policy like that, from where you sit, make a big difference?
It makes an important difference. I think we have a drastic need for more rental supply. We talk about housing in general, but housing is just, it's simply unaffordable in Toronto, Vancouver, increasingly Montreal. Rental will have to be a part of the solution. We need huge construction of purpose-built rental, and this action today will encourage the private sector to build more. We have a drastic need for that.
How much of the impediment to the level of construction that's necessary exists at the municipal level versus other levels of government from where you sit?
I think that's the primary source of challenge. Now, it's not only on the municipalities to solve it, but I think there's a lot of challenges there, and it's not just a question of dollars, but just the time it takes to go through those approval processes.
And have you found that time is a big issue?
Yeah, we did a very detailed survey of a month or two ago, and we gathered a lot of data, and the time element is critical. We're hearing delays in Toronto, Vancouver, 3-5 years plus. Edmonton, at the other extent, it's sort of 1 year, 1 to 2 years, which is, there's a huge difference across the country.
And I guess, is there a preferred, like, is 1 to 2 years okay, or should it be even faster?
It should be even faster. I think we need a lot of technology in this industry. You know, digitization is hitting everybody everywhere. I'm not sure it's hit municipal government, construction industry. We just need a lot of technology. We need to move away from paperwork, more digitization, online consultation. We just need huge amounts of this.
Do you think the political will right now, and I'm not talking about a specific party or level of government, but given the level of public pressure, the degree to which Canadians are feeling this crisis, do you think that political will exists in a way it didn't a decade ago?
I think so. I think the pressure now is huge. I think housing affordability is the #1 issue for Canadians. There's been a lot of tinkering with policies, but I think now it's clearly a crisis, and I think action will clearly need to be forthcoming.
Mr. Iorwerth, I'm going to leave it there. Thank you very much for coming in and for your analysis this evening. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Vassy.